Hello, internet viewing world. Another video. So, first question then. What was my home life? What was my what was my home life like? Um, Pretty good by most measures. Um, I definitely was not physically abused. I didn't come from a foster home. I didn't come from a background of adversity or challenge. I grew up with my mom, my brother, and my stepfather. My mom separated from my father when I was 6, and I've lived with my stepfather since then. I'm 20, how embarrassing. I'm 25, so I've spent most of my life with my stepfather over my actual father. Um, Frankly, I don't really harbor any negativity towards my father. Honestly, I don't harbor any feelings toward my father at all, which might be another issue in and of itself, but that's for a later time. But regarding my home life, it was pretty good. We weren't rich, but we definitely weren't like poor. Me and my brother got practically everything we asked for when it came to video games, provided we did well in school and helped out around the house when asked. Hell, we didn't even have to mow the lawn or do anything. As far as I remember, back in the elementary school and middle school days, I had to wash the dishes and I had to vacuum, and that was practically it. My stepfather or my brother did everything else. So I wasn't heavily taxed with chores, and provided I did well in school, my mom usually gave us, again, pretty much everything we asked for. And the main thing I asked for was video game stuff. Since I did well in school, my mom had no reason to, I guess, get mad at me or punish me. And then my mom was and still is a working mom. So most of the time when we got out of school, she wouldn't be home for another couple of hours. And she definitely didn't mind us going outside to play with friends if we so choose, because we had a key to lock the door. So she was pretty free and lax with us. We were even allowed to be outside when she got home. We just couldn't stay outside past like pitch black. So yeah, my childhood definitely, it wasn't horrible. So going from the childhood, there's not any point in my childhood I can point at and pick and say, hey, this is the cause of my depression. Which again, that's kind of my way to show that, hey, like, regardless of how good or bad your upbringing is, or regardless of your race or your gender or anything else like that, like, depression can still hit you. It isn't just restricted to one gender or one race. When did I go public with this, so to speak? I mentioned before that I really didn't have many close friends growing up, although I'll be quick to say that was mainly my fault, because again, shy, introverted, and then coupled with this stuff, I really didn't want to let people into this stuff as much as it might have helped. So I didn't go public with this until, well, I say public, I didn't tell anybody anything until my third year of college. So I was going to my college and I got an email sent from the college that they offered counseling services, and it was around that time that I really started to feel that, hey, maybe I should talk to a counselor about this stuff. Maybe I can get some kind of help that way. So, and also they offered the service freely. I'm not gonna lie and say that wasn't a big reason why I did it. That it was a free service to students. So I went to the counselor and started seeing her. Started seeing her. What was it? No, it wasn't once a month. It was probably once every 2 weeks. I had a meeting with a counselor, an hour-long session, and that was when she first came up with her assessment of me that I did suffer from depression based on some of the answers I gave and some of the experiences I've described to her. She didn't say that I was so dire that I needed medication, which was fine with me at the point because I was and still am a little bit averse to taking medication for something like this, or at all. Most of the time, I'll take Tylenol or Aleve if I have a serious headache or if I'm in some other kind of pain, but medication when it comes to mental stuff, that didn't sit well with me. But she did say that I gravitated towards the counseling just because she thought that counseling might be something that could really help. And help it did, I'll say. I enjoyed talking with her about the way that I think and about, I guess, the damage that I did to myself in my head. And it was nice. It was nice to talk to somebody. And I'll say that what made me less hesitant to talk to her was that I didn't have as much of that sense of guilt or being a burden that I would have had if I talked to anybody else, like my mom or one of my friends that I didn't feel that close with. I didn't feel that I was burdening them with the knowledge or making them down or depressed by proxy, or trying to give them another burden or something that they didn't ask for, something that they may not be as equipped to handle. So why would I give them that burden? And I think I've talked about this before. But I didn't have that feeling with the counselor because, hey, this is somebody trained to handle situations and clients like this, and somebody that wants to hear it, somebody that's prepared to hear it. So that definitely got my lips moving. But the sessions had to come to an end, and I was sad for a while because that was the most I talked about it with anybody. And I felt that she got a good grip, a good understanding of me. But the sessions had to come to an end, and for a couple months after the sessions were over, I felt maybe not good, but better. But after a while, it came to the point that I was kind of forgetting some of the lessons and strategies that I had picked up during the sessions. I remember leaving each session feeling good, having something new to think about, but I remember the feelings, but I didn't remember the lessons, the hard lessons. And there's a famous quote about that, right? That you'll forget what people say and you may forget what people did, but you'll never forget how they made you feel. And I think that's a pretty good quote. That was the first time I talked to somebody about it. And some years after that, I had actually started an online journal, and I still have that online journal somewhere. I'll post a link somewhere if any of you are that bored enough to want to read it. I had started an online journal, and the reason I made it online was for much the same reason that I'm making this series, actually, just to kind of offer sympathy and offer my experience dealing with the things that I've dealt with. And also, starting that journal, I had hoped would help me to stop ruminating over some of the stuff that I keep mulling over in my head, that maybe if I put it to paper, that I can just go back on that and read and I guess gloss over it there over constantly having it in my head on permanent repeat. And it helped for the most part. Sometimes I go back over the journal that I started. When did I start that? Like 4 years ago. And reading it now, it is quite astounding to see how I've changed. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I would suggest even somebody that doesn't suffer from depression or anxiety to start a journal. Like it's interesting stuff, I'll say, that just to see where your head is at different points in your life and what's going on with your life. So the journal was definitely a good idea. I don't really update it all that much now. In fact, I don't remember what my last update was. But the journal is definitely something to look into if, like me, there was just so much stuff in your head that it got paralyzing. And I am well used to being paralyzed by my thoughts. The next time that I spoke about this stuff was during my most recent job. I've had this job since 2013, since the middle of 2013, and I befriended a couple of my coworkers there. And as we got closer and closer, after a couple months, I felt comfortable enough with them to tell them that I suffer from some depression, that I really don't have a very high opinion of myself at all. I don't have that much self-esteem. I really think the absolute worst of myself, and I kind of bared my soul to them. And it was hard. It was really hard because I guess that was a test of sorts. A test to myself to say, hey, what'll happen once you stop being so reserved? What happens when you let people in? These people may seem to accept you now, but what happens when they know more about you? What happens when you drop the persona, I guess? And they were very accepting. They continue to support me and be my friends to this day, and understand how hard it is for me to call people friends. Most people that I call friends are, to give the perfect example, Facebook quote unquote friends. On Facebook, I have a little over 100 friends, and there are maybe 5 of them that I actually do consider my friends. And that isn't to try to be elitist or snobbish, or to say that that only those people are good enough to be my friend. I'd say that those few people, those are the people I actually do consider my friends. Those are the people I think about the most. And those are the people that I hesitate a lot less with calling my friends. And again, when I refer to people as friends, it's really hard, mainly because of me, not because of them. Because even now, I wonder what they saw in me. What do the people that have accepted me into their life think of me? Why do they keep me in their life? yeah, I make them laugh. I was like, yeah, I make them laugh. I have a sense of humor that I guess speaks to them, but I just had a hard time seeing my worth, and they apparently see it. But that was the second time that I told somebody, and the positive feedback that I got from that really made it easier to come clean to other people, which frankly is probably a big contributor to why this video series is a thing. Um, Although having said that, although I do hesitate a lot less in thinking about my friends, I still harbor the nobody wants to be around me, I should be alone, I shouldn't burden other people with my presence. I still harbor those thoughts. Maybe not as severe as they used to be, but the thoughts are still there. Um, and hell, they'll get on my case saying, "Why are you being such a stranger? Why haven't you told us about so and so that's going on with your life?" Because I'm not really one to. I I don't really call them as much as I probably should, just because I can't help but think on some level that they don't want to hear from me. And I'm not sure if I'll ever get over that completely. But that is something that I'm learning little by little to deal with. Um, so that's what happened when I told somebody. I think I've developed some stronger bonds with the people that I did feel that I was able to open up to, and they've opened up with to me in return. So I I have friends, and that means a lot more to me than I could probably ever express. As much as bad as a friend as I can be, and as much as I hesitate in saying it to them personally. But if anything, I think that may be a positive of having depression and going through some of the self-isolation and self-degrading that I've gone to, that I feel things pretty strongly, and I can admit that. Like, I'm fine with being that's one thing. Like, women do women are afflicted more with depression than men, as most fact sheets will probably tell you. But I have to wonder if that's just because women report it more. In the American culture, or in my culture, like, how often do you think a man will go to a doctor, first of all, and then not only how often do you think they'll go to a doctor, and then how often do you think they'll go to like a mental health specialist and say, "I'm feeling depressed," when as part of our culture, men are expected to be on top of things and being in charge, being macho, being confident, being self-assured. So how often will men admit that to themselves, and then how often will they admit that to somebody else? But as I said at the beginning, depression can hit anybody. Doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your race. Depression can afflict anybody. But going back to what I was saying was a good thing about being hit with depression is that I value the bonds of friendship a lot. Um, when people call me their friend, or people call me their brother, or people say I'm part of their family, that means a lot to me. It means so much to me. So very much. Um, It really does mean a lot. It's both in the spoken word and when they show it, even if I'm dumb and I don't recognize it that much. But I guess that's one thing that my fellow sufferers of depression can take heart in, and that when it gets really bad and you feel it that strongly, just try to keep in mind that if you have the capacity to feel that much pain, and I know it is a lot of pain, that you can feel just as much joy, that you have the capacity for it as much as I am. And it's hollow. I know how hollow it can sound, especially if you're in the midst of a depressive episode right now. But the amount of joy you can feel from things that really make you happy it's I'm not gonna say it's ecstasy, but it is very cathartic. I'll say that. So your capacity to feel, and to close, another thing about being depressed that kind of makes me laugh, although it's kind of sad, is that nobody can make me feel worse than I feel about myself on a daily basis, or I used to feel about myself on a daily basis. Like, if I'm picked on, or if I'm called degrading names, or if somebody makes an attempt to make me feel low, it's much easier for me to laugh it off, because frankly that's nothing compared to some of the stuff that I've told myself. As sad and as backwards as that is, I guess that's a positive, but it's the truth that whatever people might say, whatever mean or horrible things they might tell me, like, it's easy for me to laugh it off, just because that they've got nothing on what I tell myself. Like, if they're trying to make me feel bad, believe me, I've got that covered, buddy. So I guess that's a good spot to end this video. I will see you guys later.